Hello, I'm Sally Pointer. This morning's video combines two of my favourite things, a little bit of early morning hedge bothering and a look at some early textile tools. I've taken to the hedges this morning in search of thorns, and not just any thorns. Ideally I'm after blackthorns. This is the plant that you get sloes from later in the season, and the sloe either has very little thorns or it has, and here's a good one, absolutely huge ones. Now these are very, very sharp. They're so sharp that people picking sloes in the autumn quite often report getting small infections and scratches. So it's a good reminder never to take things for granted. If you do get impaled out hedge bothering, make sure you clean that wound properly when you get home. Shouldn't have any problems then. I'm going to be using these to make sewing pins. And all we need to do is break them carefully away from the stem. They'll come off with a little heel of material. Try and get that in focus for you. There we go. And these are quite strong enough to make functional dress and sewing pins. I'll collect a few more and I'll show you what to do next. Back home now, and we can start processing our thorns. I brought a little bit of hawthorn back with me for comparison. Now hawthorn is the maythorn, the one with the lovely hawthorn berries later in the year and the pretty white flowers. Often in flower about the same time as the blackthorn. Blackthorn's usually first, maythorn's a little bit later. It also has wicked thorns, but see how much thinner they are. These can make good pins, but generally I find they're a little bit brittle around the edges. But quite a lot of this thorn family, very broadly, has usable thorns. So I've got a supervisory cat here. I'm not sure how helpful she's going to be or not. So the exact species of your thorn bush doesn't matter too much. The important thing is that you have long, strong, fairly robust spines to it. Now the plant that I've chosen, the spines, come on Goro, actually coming off the side just like the hawthorn did, but you can see how they're also becoming the root of next year's little branches. So if you've got little branching bits on the side, you're just going to need to split those off. Now all we really need to do is peel these. You can do this just with a thumbnail. If that gets a little bit messy, get a little knife and just scrape off the bark. I usually leave the very, very tip of the thorn with the bark still on it. If you've got little protruding bits, we'll just trim those a little tiny bit, just to smooth it. Sometimes you'll get one that you think actually that's not a good pin, but usually it's just a case of take away any of the surplus bark, tidy it down a bit, and if necessary, clean up the area where you took it off the tree. Most people find they need a range of sizes of pins, so it's worth doing some smaller ones as well as some longer ones. And they can be used for quite a wide variety of things. They're not as strong long term as a metal pin, but it does seem realistic to think that they've been in use for a very long time. There are occasional references to people closing things like bedgown jackets in the 18th century with thorn pins, and they're definitely a viable option if you're, say, at a living history event and you've run out of authentic pins and your headrail needs fastening or your jacket needs closing or you're doing some sewing or any of the other myriad situations where a pin would be useful. A thorn pin really will do the trick in a fairly temporary way. I've had pins that I've been able to use several times running, but treat them more or less as one-use wonders and you won't go too far wrong. So scrape them down. As I said, don't worry too much about peeling the very, very end of the spike. That can help strengthen the tip. That little heel makes a good head to the pin, but just tidy up any little bits. I think I need to sharpen my knife as well, that's a bit pathetic. But there we go. I'll finish the rest of these and we'll see how they look when they've dried out. Here we are, a few minutes work, and I've got a nice new collection of pins. Lots of different sizes. They're fairly sharp, as long as your fabric isn't too finely woven. They'll go through very successfully. This is a bit of nettle fabric. They'll turn a pale brown as they dry, and once they're made, they'll last for a very, very long time. So they're a useful novelty to have in a historic sewing kit. We don't know exactly when people start using thorns, but logically it's an extremely plausible addition to a primitive or prehistoric kit. That should keep me in pins for a little while. I hope you've enjoyed this video. There will be more. We're working on these all the time, so do follow our channel and we'll be back with more videos on hedge bothering and early textiles before you know it.